My wife and her friends thought it would be interesting to leave me drugged in a motel in a foreign country, take everything, and max out my credit cards. She thought she got away with it until she saw the news headline. Man left for dead Outsmarts wife in ultimate revenge. I woke up to the kind of headache that made my skull feel like it was splitting open. My tongue was dry, swollen almost, and my throat felt like I had swallowed sand. The air in the room was thick with the stench of cigarette smoke, cheap alcohol, and something moldy. I could hear the hum of an old air conditioner struggling against the heat, but it wasn't doing much. My skin was sticky, damp from sweat. I tried to move, but my limbs were sluggish. Heavy. My muscles ached like I'd been hit by a truck. Where the HLL was I? The last thing I remembered was sitting at dinner with Celeste. The flickering candlelight, the sound of the ocean in the distance, the faint taste of wine on my tongue. She had reached across the table, her fingers grazing mine. She had smiled. Then nothing. I forced myself to sit up, my head pounding. The room swayed, and I had to blink a few times to steady myself. I wasn't in our resort suite. No, this place was different. Dingy. Rotten. Wrong. The walls were yellowed, stained with God knows what. The bedsheets were rough against my skin, scratchy, and covered in little dark specks. Dirt, maybe bugs. A ceiling fan spun lazily above me, the blades coated in dust. I could hear voices outside, the occasional honk of a car, but nothing familiar. Panic started to creep in, clawing at the edges of my mind. I patted my pockets. Nothing. No phone, no wallet, no keys. Even my shoes were gone. I was wearing the same clothes from the night before. At least, I thought I was. But my shirt was wrinkled, and there was a stain on the sleeve I didn't recognize. I pushed myself up from the bed, my legs unsteady. My vision blurred for a moment before settling. I staggered toward the small wooden nightstand beside the bed and pulled open the drawer. Empty. I turned toward the bathroom. The door was slightly ajar, revealing a grimy sink and a toilet that looked like it hadn't been cleaned in years. I gripped the sink's edge, leaned in, and looked at myself in the mirror. My pupils were blown wide, my skin pale, my hair a mess. I looked like HLL. I inhaled deeply, my nostrils filling with the scent of mildew and something metallic. My stomach twisted. Drugged. I had been drugged. And then, like a dam breaking, the realization hit me. Celeste. We had been in Cancun for a week. A trip she had planned, insisting we needed time away, just the two of us. I had thought it was a chance to fix things. Lately, she had been distant. Distracted. She would smile at me, but it never reached her eyes. She was always on her phone, whispering to someone when she thought I wasn't paying attention. But I had ignored it. Because I loved her. Because I wanted to believe that, after 6 years of marriage, we were just going through a rough patch. She had booked us a room at a high-end resort, the kind with infinity pools and overpriced cocktails. The kind of place she loved. I had gone along with it, thinking maybe this was her way of making things right. She had even invited Camille and Justin, her two closest friends. I had found it odd. After all, this was supposed to be a couple's retreat, but Celeste had assured me it would be fun. Besides, she had said with that dazzling smile of hers, "You like Justin, don't you?" I had nodded, pretending I did. The truth was, I never trusted him. Too smooth, too smug. The way he looked at Celeste when he thought I wasn't watching, it made my skin crawl. And Camille, she was no better. She had always been Celeste's little cheerleader, her partner in crime. But I had let it go. Because I loved her. Because I was a damn fool. And now, I was alone, in some filthy motel, with nothing but the clothes on my back. I staggered back to the nightstand, running a hand through my hair. Think. They had taken everything. My wallet. My credit cards. My passport. Celeste had emptied me out. I checked the cheap alarm clock on the nightstand. The red numbers blinked. 3:17 p.m. How long had I been out? I had no idea. I needed to get out of there. I needed to find a way back to the city, to someone who could help me. But most of all, I needed to get even. Because this wasn't just a robbery. This was betrayal. She had planned this. The realization was like ice in my veins. She hadn't just taken my money. She had taken my life. And I was going to take it back. The heat outside was suffocating, the sun blinding. The motel was a rundown, single-story building with peeling paint and flickering neon signs. The kind of place where nobody asked questions. I walked down the cracked sidewalk, my feet aching with every step. I had no money, no phone, no way to contact anyone. But I had one thing. Rage. And that was enough. The streets around the motel were cracked and dusty, the kind of place where the air smelled like hot pavement and old oil. A few locals sat outside tiny convenience stores, fanning themselves in the unbearable heat, their eyes following me as I walked barefoot and disoriented down the road. I had no idea where I was. Somewhere in Cancun, sure, but definitely not anywhere near the fancy resort Celeste and I had checked into. This was the real Cancun, the side most tourists never saw. Graffiti-covered walls, stray dogs sniffing through trash, rusted-out cars with missing tires. A far cry from the infinity pools and overpriced mojitos. My throat was dry, my stomach twisted with a mix of nausea and rage. My mind raced, trying to piece together the night before, but everything was a blur. How long had I been unconscious? I needed water. I needed answers. There was a small store up ahead, its doors propped open with an old milk crate. A radio played a tinny Spanish song from inside, and a few plastic crates of warm Coca-Cola bottles sat outside. I stepped in, the bell above the door jingling softly. The cashier, an older woman with deep wrinkles and sharp, assessing eyes, looked up from behind the counter. She eyed me, barefoot, disheveled, clearly not a local. Her gaze flickered with something like curiosity, but not concern. People like me probably came through here more often than I realized. Agua. My voice cracked. She didn't say anything, just reached under the counter, pulled out a plastic bottle of water, and slid it toward me. I grabbed it, twisted the cap off with shaking fingers, and gulped it down so fast that some of it spilled down my chin. The cold hit my empty stomach like a punch, but I didn't care. Then she held out her hand. Money. Shit. My stomach dropped. I patted my pockets instinctively, even though I knew they were empty. No dinero, I admitted, my voice hoarse. Her expression didn't change. She reached across the counter and calmly plucked the bottle from my hands, setting it back beside the register. I swallowed hard. Listen, I need help. Still, no reaction. Maybe she didn't understand English. Maybe she just didn't care. I leaned against the counter, lowering my voice. I was robbed. My wife. My throat clenched around the words. It still felt unreal. I forced myself to keep talking. She took everything. My wallet, my passport. I don't even know where I am. The woman glanced toward the doorway, then back at me. Then, finally, she spoke. Motel, she said, pointing a finger toward the direction I had come from. You were brought there last night. My pulse jumped. By who? She shrugged. A man. Tall. Light hair. Justin. A fresh wave of rage surged through me, burning away the lingering fog in my head. Of course, it had been Justin. He had always been by Celeste's side like a damn shadow. And Camille? She was probably laughing about it right now, sipping something expensive while watching Celeste max out my credit cards. I gritted my teeth. Where's the nearest police station? The woman gave a low, humorless laugh. Policia. She shook her head. They won't help you. I stared at her. Why not? She just held my gaze, as if waiting for me to figure it out. And then it hit me. I was just another dumb American tourist who had gotten himself into trouble. And around here, the cops weren't exactly known for their integrity. They wouldn't help me. HLL, for all I knew, they were already on Celeste's payroll. Maybe she had paid them to look the other way. No, I couldn't go to the police. I had to fix this myself. The woman seemed to sense my decision. She reached under the counter again and pulled out a single folded peso bill. Without a word, she slid it toward me. I blinked at it. You don't have to, bus, she said, nodding toward the road. Get out of here. I hesitated. Then, without thinking, I reached for the bill. It wasn't much, probably not even enough for a full ride, but it was something. I gave her a nod, then turned and stepped back into the sweltering sun. The bus was packed, the seats sticky with sweat. The driver barely glanced at me as I dropped the peso onto the metal tray and stumbled toward the back. I found an empty seat near the window and collapsed into it, my mind still racing. Celeste had planned this. Planned it down to the last detail. She must have been working on this for months, waiting for the perfect moment. Maybe this whole trip was never about us reconnecting. Maybe she had known exactly what she was doing from the start. She had drugged me, left me in a foreign country with nothing. And for what? Money? We weren't struggling. I made good money. HLL, she spent most of it. Was that not enough for her? Or was this about something else? Had she been planning to get rid of me? Not just rob me, but get rid of me for good? A new, sickening thought crept into my head. What if I wasn't supposed to wake up? What if I had been meant to overdose? I swallowed hard, staring out at the dusty streets flashing past the window. I needed to get back to the resort. If they were still there, I had to find them. I had to stop them. I had to make them pay. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. I wasn't the type to wish harm on people. I wasn't violent. But right now, I wanted revenge. And I was going to get it. The bus ride back to the resort was long, and the heat pressed against me like a weight. I kept my head down, trying to look like I belonged. I didn't want to draw attention to myself. Just a barefoot, broke American who had been tossed out like yesterday's trash. But I wasn't trash. And I sure as HLL wasn't going to let Celeste win. As we neared the resort district, my mind raced through every possible move. I couldn't go to the police. I had no money, no identification. But I still had one thing. I knew Celeste. I knew how she thought. And I knew that people like her, people who live their lives taking from others, always made one mistake. They got cocky. They thought they were untouchable. That's where they screwed up. I stepped off the bus near the luxury resort where Celeste and I had checked in just days ago. The place was exactly as I remembered. Polished marble floors, infinity pools, and staff that greeted you with fake, practiced smiles. The difference? I looked like I didn't belong anymore. No shoes. Wrinkled, sweat-stained clothes. People looked at me like I was a vagrant, an outsider. The security guards near the entrance were already eyeing me, their hands resting on their belts. I needed a way in. And then, just like that, luck threw me a lifeline. A group of tourists stepped out of a taxi, their arms loaded with shopping bags and overpriced souvenirs. They were laughing, distracted. And more importantly, they were checking in. I slid in to step behind them, keeping my head down. The trick wasn't to sneak. It was to act like you belong. I walked right in, through the glass doors, past the air-conditioned lobby, and straight toward the elevators. Not a single person stopped me. Because I wasn't supposed to be back. Because in Celeste's mind, I was probably still rotting in that filthy motel room, struggling to figure out what had happened. But I wasn't. And now, it was my turn. I had no key card to our suite, but that didn't matter. I wasn't heading there yet. I needed information first. Celeste wasn't dumb. She wouldn't have used my cards at places that could easily track her. No, she was smarter than that. But Camille? Camille was careless. I pulled up a seat in the lobby, staying close to a group of loud American tourists so I wouldn't draw attention. Then I spotted the hotel's business center, a small room with a couple of computers. Jackpot. Slipping inside, I tapped at the keyboard and pulled up my email. I knew Celeste had access to my accounts, but I had set up security alerts that sent automatic emails whenever a new location was detected. And there it was. Fraud alert. Recent transactions on your account. I clicked it open. And that's when I saw exactly where they had been spending my money. A luxury yacht rental, designer clothing stores, fine dining at one of the most expensive restaurants in Cancun. They weren't just stealing from me. They were celebrating it. I clenched my jaw, my fists tightening. All right, let's see how much they enjoy it when the tables turn. I knew I had to move fast before Celeste realized I was back in play. I logged into my online banking. It took me 3 tries to get the password right. My hands were still shaking, but finally, I was in. Celeste had been smart enough to take my physical cards. But she had made a crucial mistake. She hadn't drained the accounts completely, and she had left my online access intact, which meant I could freeze the cards right now. A few clicks, a confirmation message, and just like that, their shopping spree was over. I stared at the screen, my pulse pounding. Somewhere, right now, Celeste was probably sitting at a fancy restaurant, about to hand over my black Amex, only to have the waiter return, awkwardly apologizing, saying, "Lo siento, señora. Your card has been declined." I smiled. That was just the beginning. I wasn't just going to take my money back. I was going to ruin them. I had one thing left that Celeste and her friends didn't expect me to have. Leverage. While digging through my email, I had found something else. A hidden email folder. One Celeste had created, probably thinking I'd never check it. And inside, photos, messages, receipts, evidence that she had been chating on me with Justin for over a year. But that wasn't all. There were emails between Camille and Celeste, laughing about the plan to drug me, joking about how easy it had been. I inhaled sharply, my chest burning. I could have gone to the police with it, but that would take too long. I had a better idea. With a few clicks, I compiled everything, the emails, the photos, the receipts, and uploaded them. Then, I sent them to everyone. Celeste's parents, her boss, our mutual friends, her fancy social circle back home. And for good measure, I sent them to herself. Then, as a final touch, I sent the whole package to a well-known travel scam awareness blog, letting them know that an American tourist had been targeted by his own wife in a luxury vacation scam. Within minutes, the internet started eating her alive. By the time I finally walked into the resort's restaurant, I already knew the damage was done. Celeste was sitting at a table with Justin and Camille, her phone clutched in her hand, her face pale. She had seen the emails. She had seen everything. The waiter stood nearby, awkwardly holding the bill. I could tell by his expression that the card decline had already happened. She looked up and saw me. And in that moment, I saw real fear in her eyes. Not because she thought I would hurt her. No, because she knew she had lost. I walked right up to the table. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Justin shifted uncomfortably in his chair, and Camille just looked away. I leaned down, resting my hands on the table, lowering my voice so only they could hear. "Enjoying your meal?" I asked. Celeste swallowed hard. "Marcus," I smiled. A slow, satisfied smile. "You should probably find a way to pay for it," I said. Then, without another word, I turned and walked away. I didn't need to stay and watch what happened next. I already knew. They were finished. The cool night air rolled off the ocean as I sat on the edge of the hotel's private beach, my bare feet sinking into the soft sand. The waves moved in slow, steady rhythms, a stark contrast to the chaos I had just unleashed hours earlier. For the first time in a long time, I felt calm. No rage. No bitterness. Just relief. Celeste was gone. Everything she had tried to take from me, I had taken back. And now, I could finally start over. I had walked away from that restaurant knowing I had won. And the fallout? It was even better than I expected. The emails and evidence spread like wildfire. By the time I checked my phone, after borrowing one from a kind British couple at the hotel bar, Celeste's entire world was crumbling. Her parents? Disowned her. I guess even old money draws the line somewhere. And a public scandal involving fraud, infidelity, and drugging your husband in a foreign country was too much for them to handle. Her social circle? Gone. People who once adored her were now dragging her name through the mud, distancing themselves before the scandal tainted them. And Justin? Oh, Justin. Turns out, he didn't handle pressure well. The second things started falling apart, he tried to shift the blame onto Celeste. He denied everything, said it was her plan, that he was just along for the ride. But the emails, the texts, the receipts, they told a different story. And Camille? She was just as screwed. She had actively participated in drugging me, and now that the story had gone viral, her name was everywhere. She had called me twice, begging, pleading, apologizing. I didn't answer. She wasn't worth my time. Celeste tried to run. Once she realized there was no coming back from this, she attempted to sneak out of the resort, probably to find a way back to the U.S. before the situation got worse. But that's where things got interesting. See, when I cut off my credit cards and froze my accounts, I didn't just stop her spending spree. I left just one charge pending, the bill from the resort. A $15,000 charge. So when she tried to leave, security stopped her. They don't take too kindly to people skipping out on massive bills. And with her main credit card blocked, she had no way to pay it. Word is, she made a scene. Yelling, crying, trying to blame me. Didn't work. By the time I left Cancun, she was still stuck there, scrambling for a way to get out. And me? I was already on my way to something better. It took a few weeks to get everything sorted once I got back to Chicago. I filed for divorce immediately, fast-tracked, thanks to the overwhelming evidence of fraud and infidelity. The best part? I walked away with everything. The judge didn't just approve my case. He made sure Celeste got nothing. The house? Mine. The savings accounts? Mine. The car she loved driving around in? Gone. Sold. Every single thing she thought she could steal from me? She lost it all. Meanwhile, her life was in free fall. She moved out of Chicago, disgraced and humiliated, with no money, no friends, and no reputation left. Last I heard, she was crashing on a distant cousin's couch in some small town, trying to find a job that didn't require a background check. As for Justin, well, turns out, his wife found out about his FIR. Yeah, he was married. And when his wife saw the proof I sent her, she took the kids, the house, and half his income. Karma's a beautiful thing. For months after, I kept expecting to feel anger. To wake up one morning still bitter, still consumed by what had happened. But instead, I felt light. Like I had been carrying around a weight I didn't even realize was crushing me. I started focusing on myself. I took a trip, this time, on my own terms, to Italy. Spent weeks wandering the streets of Rome, eating real Italian food, talking to people, experiencing life again. I reconnected with old friends, the ones Celeste had slowly pulled me away from. And I went back to work, not just as a construction manager, but as someone who actually wanted to build something for myself. I even started dating again. Nothing serious, not yet. But for the first time in years, I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't forcing anything. I was just living. Looking back now, I don't hate Celeste. Hating her would mean she still held power over me. She doesn't. She's just a lesson now. A reminder of how blind love can make you. How easy it is to ignore the red flags when you don't want to see them. But I see them now, and I know myself better than ever. She tried to destroy me. She thought I would be left for dead in a foreign country, broken and ruined. Instead, I came back stronger.